What is up, my friends? How are we? It's Thursday night, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm still basking in the glory of last night's victory. Yeah, small mercies and all that, you know. I'll take it. 5-1 away from home, Champions League. Look, the opposition wasn't the toughest opposition we're ever going to face, but we wanted to get back to winning ways, and we did. Tonight, we're going to discuss the interest in Antoine Semenyo. We're going to talk about the centre-back situation. We will, of course, have a little discussion around Mohamed Salah and his social media accounts removing all the Liverpool information. We'll ask what you think that means and what it's all about. We'll talk about Cody Gakpo a little bit, and as always, anything else that you guys would like to discuss. It's your show. Just let me know. Appreciate you being in with us. The preview for the game coming up the weekend against Brentford, that'll be out tonight at 10:45. So if you do get a chance, give that a watch later on and let me know what you think. And we're recording another episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast tomorrow with myself, Chris, and Connor. So, ladies and gents, we good? I'm relieved, in all honesty, after last night's win. You know, when you went 1-0 down early doors, I started to fear the worst. But I did like the way we played. I like the system. I like the energy levels that we had. I like the fact that Curtis Jones and Dominic Szoboszlai, I think, really complemented each other quite well. And I thought Conor Bradley was immense when he came on as well. So a lot of that leaned into my thinking anyway ahead of the game against Brentford. But it is going to be a more difficult encounter, I believe, than the one against Frankfurt. We should get Minter, said King MG. He's not good enough in my opinion, bro. But, you know, each to their own. I just don't think Kikuba Minter's got anywhere good enough to come to Liverpool. But in saying that, I've been wrong about players before, and I'll probably be wrong about them again in the future. So let's start talking about. Let's have a little look at. Well, let's have a look at the Salah situation, because I'm not going to lie, it's annoyed me a bit. And again, each to their own, and I only ever tried to give you my opinion, but he changed his social media profile picture and removed his header on X to remove all Liverpool stuff. Now, I don't know why this is. I don't know if anybody does know why he's done it. But I don't understand his thought process, whatever the reason. Because after last night's game, I think it's fair to say we were all left a little bit disappointed in his cameo from the bench. I'm sure he was disappointed in not starting the game. But what I don't understand is, what's the point he's trying to prove here? Or what's the point he's trying to get across by removing Liverpool from his social media stuff? You know, we can only speculate, because truth is we just don't know. But it has to be a response to something. You know, is it a response to fan behaviour and feeling like maybe he's not getting the support that he should? Is it to do with not starting the game? Is there something going on behind the scenes? It isn't a coincidence. And it kind of frustrates me a little bit that he's doing it. And let me tell you why. For me, what we'd seen last year was pretty much every single Liverpool fan that had a social media platform or that had something to say was backing Mo for that new contract. You know, you've seen on the Cop and inside Anfield, you know, he plays with a bow, give him his dough. He was really well supported, and everybody pulled together to make sure that Mo got that contract that everybody felt that he deserved. So I feel like if this is any reaction towards the fans, it's unfair and unwarranted, because I think the fans have been brilliant with Mo. What he does have to recognise, though, is that his form isn't good enough at the minute, and that's not my fault. That's not your fault. That's down to the player himself. So removing the social media stuff, it's going to just add to the pressure on Liverpool now from the outside. Because, of course, you're going to have the media picking up on it. You're going to have opposition club fans picking up on it. And it's going to bring more negativity towards Liverpool. And I just don't understand why he did it. Anybody, any ideas? Absolutely, let's discuss them. Put it into the chat. I just think it's petty, to be honest with you. Whatever the reasons are, I don't feel they're justified, because nobody has been saying anything other than his form hasn't been good enough. There's always going to be some idiots on social media who go too far and say, get out of my club. But look, that's been around for a long time. This is why I'm so confused as to what on earth is going on with him, because, you know, he's played pretty much every game this season. Yes, he's been rested in the last two Champions League games, but I think the performance from everybody on that pitch last night justified the decision from the manager to rest Mo. So, you know, that's where I'm at with it, but I just don't understand. It just feels petty. It feels Darwin Núñez-esque, and it's not befitting of Mo, to be honest with you. Could it be a reminder of Jota? His picks with them winning the league, it might be... No, It's nothing to do with that, Colette. I mean, I appreciate that you're trying to look on the positive side, but to remove all Liverpool mention, whether it be in your profile pic, whether it be in your bio, whether it be in your background, that's nothing to do with the reminders of anything. It's a clear statement, and he did it after the game last night as well. So whatever it is, it's in reaction to something about the fans, the club, the manager, something. And look, you know me, I'm going to be honest and blunt with you. I think if he's having a strop, tough, because everybody else gets held to the same standards. And he hasn't been the only one that's come under criticism this season. Canade's come under criticism. Everybody that's underperformed has come under criticism. But this just feels childish and petty to me, and I don't like it, especially after the support he's got non-stop during his time at Liverpool from Liverpool fans, And even, like I said, last year, when the club were unsure or the club were stalling on that new contract, the pressure was ramped up by Liverpool fans all around the world telling FSG to pay the man. And now he's been rewarded with a contract that, of course, he deserved. And I don't know, this just feels stupid and weird. Hopefully, he's not getting grief from our fan base. Oh, he will be, Oliver. He will be. I've no doubt about that. But that's life of a footballer. That's social media. What I would say is, and I think he gave this advice to Rio Ngamoa, stay off it. Don't come near social media. I'm even surprised if Mo runs his own social media. Surely there's a team of people to do that. Yeah, I don't get it. Liverpool fans, in my opinion, have done nothing to deserve that, if that's the case for Mo. And again, reacting to a few idiots on social media, because in the main, Liverpool fans have always been incredibly supportive of Mo and incredibly grateful for everything that he's done. But he just isn't doing it at the minute. And, he needs to look inwards. And I'd be saying this, and I did say this about Darwin Núñez, and I'd say it about any other player. Footballers are great at taking the compliments and the praise that comes their way, but whenever it's time for a little bit of criticism or, calling out, some of them sulk, and it's childish and it's stupid and I don't like it, and he should be above that. If you've got, I'm a believer in, if you've got something to say it, and these little snidey little moves mean nothing. If you've got something to say, come out and say it, and it can be addressed. But doing that just leaves people open to guessing. David Hansen said nothing good comes from social media these days. I'd agree. And like I've said to you, I removed myself from social media 3-4 years ago and don't miss it one bit. Coming on here with you guys is, I guess, my social media, and I very much enjoy the streams. But, I get it. Like, I get any footballer who doesn't want to be on social media, because it can be a shit show on there at times. You've got the racism stuff that gets lobbied around to people. You've got the over-the-top reactions and stuff. So I get it, but again, doesn't undermine the great fan base that have been behind him. And, I think Liverpool fans deserve better. Craig saying, as it is, all the other channels are snowflakes. Look, I always promise to give you my honest opinion, and I'm not scared to criticize anybody that I think needs to be criticized, because it's fair. Like, nobody says anything when we're all praising, when we're saying footballers are brilliant, they're doing magnificent work, and they're all amazing people. That's all cool. But as soon as a bit of criticism, and deserved criticism, comes somebody's way, they throw their toys out of the pram. And I think that's just stupid and petty. Like I said, if Mo has something to say it. If he's unhappy with the fans, say it. But this, again, just feels childish. Coleman, what are you asking? Did I see, mate? I'm not sure what you're asking. Let me go back up, see if I can find what you're talking about. I think it's a mix of the abuse he's receiving from Liverpool fans and other things. Well, look, how do I say this? Abuse is not okay. Of course it's not okay. Anybody, whether it's Mo, Virgil, Conor Bradley, it doesn't matter. Nobody should be abused for what they do on a football pitch. But, like I said, that's just a few idiots. And he's tarring an entire fan base with it if he's doing this type of stuff. And he's not above criticism, nor should he be. I'm going to be really blunt about this, right? If he wants to moan at somebody, well, he needs to look in the mirror. Because it's not me, you, Arna. It's nobody else's fault that his form isn't where it is. It's his. So if he isn't big enough at 33 years of age to look in the mirror, look inwardly, and ask himself, have I really been performing this season? And say no, then that's on him. It's not on the fan base, because we're entitled to have a damn opinion. And nobody should be a guaranteed starter. Nobody. I would argue that Arna left it too long before he made a difficult decision. And I would also argue that we looked better last night without him in the team. Now, that doesn't mean we'll look better all the way going forward without him in the team, nor does it mean that he shouldn't get a chance again. But he hasn't been good enough. It's as simple as that. And if he can't take that, tough. And I know that sounds blunt, but this is the life of an athlete. It's about competition. You know, you can't just be a fair weather player when everything's going great, you're happy, and then when you have a little bit of trouble, you start throwing your toys out of the pram. That's not good enough. I'm sorry, it's not. The people who are giving Salah the abuse are not real fans, because the real fans will back the players until the end, regardless of form. No, that's not true, Scout Stewart, either. See, this winds me up. This mythical theory that all fans have to be ever praising and supportive of everybody is just bullshit. It's nonsense. And it's not fair on fans. You know, we pay our money. We pay our TV revenue money. We pay our shirts money. You go to games. You're allowed an opinion. And if somebody's underperforming, you should be able to say they're underperforming. And they should be able to take that on the chin. And if they can't, like I said earlier on, tough. Because that's the way it is. It's a ruthless business. They get paid mega money to take this on their shoulders. And like I said, abuse is off the table. Nobody should be getting abused. But most of the people that I've seen speaking about him are being critical of him and not abusive of him. And I think the criticism is deserved at this point. You know, Mo got criticism. Kanade has got criticism. Virgil has had a bit of criticism. Isak has had a bit of criticism. Wirtz has had a bit of criticism. But he's the only one that's done that. And again, no obvious reason why. Last night, Lewis Steele said he went straight down the tunnel and he looked like he had a bit of a cob on, or looked like he was a bit pissed off. And I've no problem with a player being annoyed after a game. I've no problem with a player being annoyed if they're getting substituted, because again, these guys are professional athletes and they hold themselves to high standards. So for me, when I read last night that Lewis Steele said that Mohamed Salah went down the tunnel and he looked a bit annoyed, my initial reaction was, well, he's probably upset with himself because he didn't really play the way he would have wanted, or he didn't take a chance that maybe he feels he should have taken. That was my initial reaction. But then when I'd seen the social media stuff, that's when I kind of got a little bit annoyed by it all as a fan, because I don't think it's deserved. Look, Darwin doing it, I would imagine that Darwin was receiving a lot worse than Mo is. And Darwin did it and we called it out. So why shouldn't we be doing the same thing here? Because he's trying to say something without saying something. And he's not looking out for the team and he's not looking out for the club. Because this is going to draw attention, and it's going to draw negative attention towards Liverpool, towards the dressing room and towards the manager. And he knows that. So he's doing this knowing that it will intentionally draw negativity back towards the club. And I'm sorry, that's not good enough. You're there to be part of the team, to support the team, and to be supported by those around you. Doing this is selfish. Make no mistake about it. It's selfish. Think slots football's impacting Mo, passing too slow. There's a lot of things that have impacted the performances this season. From Mo's perspective, I would say not having Trent around, that would be a part of it. Of course, Diogo passing would be part of it. But on top of that, look, it can't always be everybody else's fault. He has to take some responsibility here, because the system and the changes have been there for everybody. And a lot of players have been criticised, but nobody has took down their social media and removed all Liverpool stuff like he has. And he knows what he's doing. He's doing it to draw attention. But like I said, he hasn't come out and said why. And that's what pisses me off. Because if you've got something to say it. But don't bring negativity on the club by looking out for yourself. Because he was selfish last night. He could have squared that ball to Wirtz. Wirtz would have scored and it would have taken a load of pressure off Wirtz's shoulders. But he didn't do that, did he? He went for glory himself and he missed again. So why wouldn't he be getting some criticism for that? He wasn't playing as a team player. He was playing as an individual. And we don't win leagues with individuals. So if he can't maybe handle that there are new big personalities in that dressing room, your Isaks, your Ekatikes, your Florian Wirtz, I don't know what to say. But like I said, for me, yeah, that a lie, Craig. Kanate said something about people talking about his form. Jesse, I can't even break down your sentence, dude, to understand what you're trying to say. What's a lie? What's a fucking lie? Because I've sat here, mate, and I've said Kanate has been criticised, Wirtz has been criticised, and none of them have taken down the social media stuff. So if you're going to call me a liar, Jesse, you best fucking prove it or you're gone. So you tell me what I lied about and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Because I didn't lie anything. But again, I'm not even going to get wound up by it. You can just do one. It's as simple as that. Mark said, support him. You know how hard mental health is. So, again, Mark, I didn't do anything. So don't be pushing this back on me. If Mo said, I need extra support, I'm struggling, do you not think I and everybody else would give it to him? In fact, if you go back and watch my streams, mate, many, many times I've said, if there's a player or two that's still struggling there, they should be looked after, they should be taken out of the limelight, and they should be given time to grieve and to get back to where they want to be. So fuck you for trying to turn this on mental health because it's lazy and you just want to use it to have a pop at me. The long and short of it is, Mark, he isn't playing good enough. He's thrown his toys out with a pram. He's removed Liverpool from his social media. Now you tell me why that's fair to anybody. Because the mental health stuff is just lazy. Because he hasn't come out and said anything. And that's my point here. He's just left this open to interpretation without telling anybody why he's done it or without coming out and asking for people to back off or coming out and talking about it. He's just acted petulantly. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way that is. So it's got nothing to do with mental health. That's lazy. And if he is struggling with mental health, of course he should be given the support he needs, as should any other player. But just having a cob on because you're not playing well and you can't deal with that, that's not good enough. Simple as that. Padge said, Saturday, Craig, Mama, Bradley, Ibu, VVD, Robbo, Ryan, Soboslai, Wirtz, Gakpo, Ekatike, Mo, give Mo chance to prove people wrong. He's had a chance to prove people wrong. He's had 7 games to prove people wrong and he hasn't done it. So, you know, if you think he should play me, absolutely no issues with that. Of course, you're entitled to your opinion. But I thought we looked better without him in the team last night. I thought we looked more balanced. And I would be going again at the weekend and leaving him on the bench. For what it's worth, my team, I don't want to give it away because it'll be out a little bit later on. But yeah, for me, I'd still be benching him at the weekend because look what he did do in the 11 minutes he came on. He could have had a hat-trick. And I'm not exaggerating that. He could have had a hat-trick. And he missed them all. And the unforgivable one for me is the fact that he missed a very easy lay-on that he could have just rolled across to Wirtz, who could have opened his account, but he chose not to. Lee or Keane said to me, Lewis Steele deleted his tweet and said he clapped the fans, by the way. I didn't say he didn't clap the fans, Keane. All I said is he went down the tunnel with a face on him. I didn't say, never once said he didn't clap the fans. And I did know of Lewis Steele changing his tweet, by the way. But like I said, you say he went down the tunnel with a face on him and then he deletes all the social media stuff. So, you know, that's not a coincidence in my eyes. It's done intentionally. With all these matters, I think we really miss some context. It's hard to say if Mo did something selfish besides not passing. But that's my whole point, mate. We haven't got the context because he won't give the context. Do you get me? Like, if you've got something to say and you're unhappy about something, say it. But just taking down your social media stuff doesn't address anything, bro. It just looks childish. So, of course, context is important, bro. I'm absolutely with you on that one. But as fans, we don't have context. All we know is he was on the bench last night. He came on for the last 11 minutes. He went off the pitch looking unhappy, and he took down his social media stuff. That's all we know. We have no idea after that what it's about, what he feels sad or unhappy about. We don't know. So that's what I'm saying. We don't have the context, my man. If we had the context, this would be a much easier conversation. So again, people seem to be having a dig at me here about his form. I'm not saying he should be written off. I haven't once said that. I'm addressing the social media stuff, not his form. His form, I've said it last night and I'll say it again. I believe it's temporary. I believe he will get back to his best. I am in no way, shape or form writing off Mohamed Salah or saying we need to get rid of him. Not one bit. I am saying he doesn't deserve to start because he isn't playing well enough. I don't think that's even up for debate. Now, why he's not playing well enough, of course it's open, and of course the roles have changed a little bit, but so have a lot of other people's. And he's the only one having a cob on and taking down the social media stuff. Again, let's talk about players who've been criticised this season. Bradley has been criticised, Canade has been criticised, Virgil's been criticised, Kirkes has been criticised, McAllister's been criticised, Isak's been criticised. But none of them are going around taking down the social media and having a cob on about it. This is what I'm saying. You can't just be praised all the time. Life is not like that. And if you can take a little bit of criticism when you know damn well you're underperforming, I don't know what to say about that. It's just not a good look. It's not a good look because it's selfish and it doesn't think of the knock-on effect and impact to Liverpool. Because right now, there'll be opposition fans, there'll be journalists, there'll be media, all talking about what this means. Is something wrong behind the scenes at Liverpool? Is Mohamed Salah unhappy? And all of that stuff just puts more negative pressure on the club at a time where the club are struggling with shaky form. So it's not being a team player, it's not being a leader, it's being selfish and it's being childish. And I don't know how that is even debatable. I don't. I'm not telling him to get out of the club. I'm not saying sell him. I haven't once suggested any of that. But I am going to call out silly childish behaviour when it's there because that's all this is. Joseph said, would you stick with the same system for Saturday? I would, mate, yeah. I really enjoyed that last night, the way we played. Now, again, context is important because of the level of opposition we played against. And Frankfurt aren't having a great season. But we still went out there and did a job. And look, I'd like to know what everybody else felt about the system. Actually, you know what? Let's ask that as a poll. We'll run that as our first poll of the night. 1 second. Right, so should Slot play the same system on Saturday? I thought it gave us a better balance. I really do. Now, it was weird seeing Wirtz playing in a wide right position, but apart from that, I really do feel it gave us more balance. And what we'd seen from the heat maps of the players as well was that we were always leaving one full back. So we were moving into a back three when the right wing back or the right full back in this position was pushing on forward. We always had Robbo tucking in to make the back three. So I think it gave us a bit of more fluidity. It certainly allowed us to create more chances. And I don't think the midfield was played through anywhere near as much as it was in other games. And it was a pleasant surprise because I really didn't expect Arne to go out there and change up the system. But it's hard to know whether it was just a case of maybe injuries and a few other things, and he maybe felt like he needed an extra body in the middle. So we went for a 4-4-2 instead of having Gravenberch there. Maybe he thought he needed to shore it up a little bit. But I liked it personally, and I'd be intrigued to see if he went with it again against Brentford. Scouser Stewart said Mo should get criticism for his form, but abuse no. 100% agree. Nobody deserves abuse, mate. And I will call out, and same as you, any idiot in social media who says something like, get out of my club, or sell Salah now. That stuff is not what we're speaking about. It certainly isn't what I'm trying to get across here. I take it for granted we all love Mo. I take it for granted that we all have him on a pedestal because he's earned that right. But we also know that we lost 4 in a row and the manager's coming under pressure. And we played last night and he rested Mo and we looked better. Mo came on, had some chances, missed them, and had a moment that I think most of us will feel he should have squared it to Wirtz. That's what I'm talking about. Looking solely at his performances and addressing what we're seeing on the pitch. Nobody can tell what's going to happen in the future. I've said multiple times, I believe this is just a blip in form. But when you've got former pros, Emile Heskey was saying he should be on the bench for a while. Carragher was saying he should be on the bench for a while. I don't think that's unfair. Because if this was Cody Gakpo, we'd have the same conversation. If it was Florian Wirtz, we have and would have had the same conversation. So like I said, I think Liverpool fans were brilliant last year in being incredibly supportive of Mo to make sure that he got the contract that everybody felt that he deserved. Right? Would you say that's fair? Because he had the banners on the Kop, he had people on social media calling out FSG and saying, pay the man. He got his contract, everybody's happy, and now we go into a new season, and of course what happened with Diogo is still looming over everybody, and that's understandable if he's suffering because of that. But that's even more reason that maybe you take him out of the limelight for a little bit if he is struggling. But all we know now is that he took down the social media. We have to guess because we don't know. But it isn't a good look. And it's not a good look from somebody who's a senior player and a leader in that dressing room. Virgil took down his social media. We'd all be wondering what on earth is going on, and we'd be thinking he's falling out with somebody. Is he annoyed at the fans? Is he looking for a sale? So when your club's under scrutiny, acting like Mo has is just going to add to that scrutiny. And that's the point, I guess, in a very long-winded way, I'm trying to get across. It's avoidable. If Mo came out and said, I'm getting some abuse from fans, it's unacceptable, I guarantee you, all the Liverpool fan base would rally around and go, yeah, you're right, Mo. Maybe you haven't been playing well, but you absolutely don't deserve any abuse. Of course we would. Because that's the type of people we are. And we don't count these people that give abuse to players as a fan. They're scumbags. So, that's what I'm trying to say here. All I'm trying to say is nobody's above any criticism. And he knew what he was doing by doing that. He knew it was going to draw attention. This one. Ruthless said, hey Craig, do you think the future of our football involves relentless pressing? Also, incredibly happy that Szoboszlai and Ekitike play for us. So, I think so, yes, on the pressing, mate. It's been a huge part of our identity for the last 9 or 10 years now, from the Jurgen era straight through to the Arne era. And I think to play the way that we do play, pressing is vital, but the press has to work. If we play risky forms of football at times, and especially on the Jurgen, we condense that pitch right down. So the press is important, because if the press isn't right, it gives people the time and space to play around the press. So I think a lot of the time when we concede goals, it's after turning over possession when we're not set to press. So like the goal we conceded last night started out with Florian Wirtz losing possession deep inside the Frankfurt half. And then all of a sudden, a couple of passes through, they were in midfield and they had acres of space and they were able to move it out to the right and eventually get their goal. So yeah, press is hugely important. And that's why we've got players like Kirkes, Szoboszlai, Jones, players who can, and Wirtz, who can cover huge amounts of ground. And that's one thing I'm very grateful for. Like, we have really, really fit and robust players who can get up and down that park all day. And you need that. You need those athletes to be able to play with the press in the way he wants to. This one from Martin. Imagine the praise Salah would have gotten if he'd squared the ball to Wirtz. The narrative would have been, what a leader for getting Wirtz off the mark. Yeah. Like I said, there's a very simple rule that I have for any forward at any club. If there's a chance that you could either square the ball to somebody to score or you take it on yourself, I have one simple rule. If you take it on yourself, you've got to score. And if you don't score, you're going to be labelled selfish. And I stick by that rule. Because last night, if Mo would have stuck that one in the net, we wouldn't have said anything about it. But he took it on and he missed it. But the right decision would be to lay the ball across. We all know that. Because the angle was better. Wirtz had an open goal. And he chose not to. Now, I understand why he chose not to. Because he wants to get back to scoring. He wants to take some of the pressure off his own shoulders. I totally understand that. But it was the wrong decision. And it only adds to my belief then that he's not in the right place. Because he's trying to force things. And he's trying to do something that isn't right. Squaring it was the right option. Now, I've not been somebody that calls Mohamed Salah selfish. I have defended the claims against Mohamed Salah being selfish. Because I've never believed that he was. No more so than any other forward who were probably inherently selfish. But, last night that was a selfish act. And any criticism that comes of that, I believe, is warranted. Especially when you have another player in Wirtz who's also coming under criticism, who's been unlucky not getting some of the goals and assists, and you have a chance to get him off the mark and, like you said, show leadership. He scores, everyone's happy. You get an assist to your name and maybe you're back in the starting lineup of the weekend. But what he did last night, I don't see how that's going to make Arna think, oh yeah, I was wrong about leaving Mo out. He's ready, let's go. Most people in the polls that I'd seen last night, and I looked at a few different accounts, more or less 9 out of 10 people were saying that he shouldn't start at the weekend because he's not looking right. This is so difficult, because we are criticising somebody who we adore. And I had this problem with Jurgen as well. If ever I was unhappy with Jurgen about something, I hated talking about it publicly because I idolise the man. And we all love Mohamed Salah. But we also love the club and the team, and the decision should be those that are best for the group and not for the individual. Will said, "Evening, Craig. It's a classic act by Mo. No player should be picked when out of form." It's done. What he did with that social media stuff was done to draw attention to it. No doubt about it. And already today, right? So he did that last night, and let me read you out a few articles from today. So this piece here from Peter O'Rourke said, Liverpool have no current thoughts about selling Mohamed Salah next summer. So that's one post about it. And then there was another one somewhere as well. This one here said, Liverpool have no plans to part ways with Mohamed Salah either in January or in the summer, but the Egyptian international is likely to have the final decision on his Anfield future. Salah has found it difficult to maintain his form lately, with his performances and statistics dipping noticeably at the start of the new season. So there's 2 articles there that are already talking about a potential sale, saying that Liverpool don't want to sell. So the narrative, it feels like, is going to be, is Mo now looking at his options? Is Mo now wanting out? Is Mo now unhappy? And again, we don't know the answer to that, because all we know is that he took down his social media. Which is why you've heard me say multiple times, if you've got something to say it. The Emir said, for Brentford, I would go with Gio, Bradley, Kanade, VVD, Robbo, Szoboszlai, Jones, Wirtz, Gakpo, Ekitike, Chiesa. Yeah, that's the same. Exact same, mate. Yeah, look, if he goes and puts Salah on alongside Ekitike, I get that as well. Because we were talking about this last night when we seen the 4-4-2 system. This could be the opportunity to get Mo more central. Because, we've said for a long time, when players, get older in years, often they reinvent themselves, like Ronaldo becoming a striker. And I think most of us could see a world where Mo playing as one of the 2 strikers could actually be beneficial to him and could get him in areas of the pitch where he can do more damage. So, ironically, I think the system change could be one that benefits Mo in the longer term. So if Arna wants to play him, look, if I'm guessing, I'm saying he'll play Mo. Because we know he doesn't really seem to want to start Chiesa. So I'd guess that we'll see Mo for going with a 4-4-2 alongside Ekitike. Mark said, mental health lazy. PS, Frankfurt is a walkover. I didn't say mental health is lazy, Mark. I said you using mental health is lazy. So again, Mark, it seems like you're just intent to pick a fight with me here, Mark. Trying to say it's about mental health is lazy, and it's just an excuse. We don't know what it's about, bro. That's why I'm not sitting here saying it's about mental health or it's about fans or it's about his form. We don't know, and that's the problem, dude. But to just jump to the mental health stuff, I'm saying you're being lazy. Not that mental health is lazy. So please don't try and twist my words, because I'm quite frankly sick of it, because it happens every single day. I know what I say. I say things intentionally because I know how to word stuff and what I mean. So I'm calling you lazy for using mental health rather than just saying he's not playing well. Because that's the answer, dude. He's not playing well. Whatever the reason for that, certainly that's up for a conversation. But to jump straight to it's mental health. Why? Because he's not playing football well? Because it wasn't mental health when he was scoring at the start of the season. So, if it is his mental health, like I've already said, of course he should receive all the support necessary, as should anybody else on the team, if they're suffering. But isn't that even more of a reason then to be taken out of the limelight? To be given the time and space to recover, to grieve, to do whatever you need to do? That's my point. I'm not calling people with mental health lazy. Of course I wouldn't do that. I suffer with it myself. But ironically, I am lazy, but that's a whole nother conversation. Mike said, I completely agree, Craig. Any news on the GIF, wink, wink? I just keep forgetting. Dude, you're best just asking Connor. Honestly, Mike, best just asking Connor, because he's the one that's going to sort it for you anyway. And I've got so many things happening today at the minute, bro. My head's a little bit all over the shop. I do apologise, because I know, I've put that on the long finger. But, yeah. So, there you go. Sorry, I'm confused by something in the chat. Lee said, I feel this season we aren't being as adaptable in terms of setup. It's almost as if we're trying to force something that isn't working. Last season we were brilliant at changing from game to game. So I want to read you out something that Curtis Jones said, because I actually agree with him on this. So let me read something out to you and see what you guys think about it. So our friends at Anfield Index posted this quote from Curtis Jones that said, I've been saying it for a few weeks that our games are like basketball games, end to end. I came into the team and my mind was that I want the team to play through me. I can dominate the game, and if I've got the ball, a load. Dom next to me is comfortable as well. I love hearing that. I love that confidence from Curtis Jones. Give me the damn ball, I'm going to make it happen. And to be fair to him, from the time he came on against Manchester United to the performance he put in last night, he isn't wrong. He isn't wrong. I thought certainly him and Dom were brilliant in the middle of the park yesterday, and certainly forward thinking and forward looking. And I've said this about Curtis Jones for a long time, whether it's going right or going wrong for him, he doesn't hide on a football pitch. He always shows for the ball, always tries to make something happen. And yes, sometimes he takes too much out of the ball, but I love it. I love hearing this from him. And yeah, I'm proud to hear that from him, because he looks like he's in a really good, confident vein of form at the minute, and long may that continue. Ooh, here's a bit of exciting news that it's just come in from Dean Jones of ESPN. So are you ready for this? Because this makes me very happy. So there is a real prospect, in quotation marks, real prospect, that Eduardo Camavinga could be an option for Liverpool if things continue to not go well for him. But Real Madrid are currently adamant that we're still some way away from a decision like that on the midfielder. So I think I read somewhere the other day that he's only seen like 167 minutes of action under Xabi Alonso so far. But I'll tell you what, folks, I'd have Eduardo Camavinga in a second if he was available. Imagine having him and Gravenberch as options. Whew. Yeah, I'd love that. I don't, expect it to happen. But if Camavinga was on the market, it'd be somebody that I'd be looking at anyway. I think he's really good. My opinion turned on him when he played for France against Ireland, and I seen up close quite how good he was in that particular game. And then I've kind of followed since, and I wasn't really on the hype train of Camavinga when he left France and went to Real Madrid, but I see it, and depending on the price and stuff like that, I wouldn't say no. Steve Parker said, what has Mo said on social media? So he said nothing, mate, but what he has done is taken down reference of Liverpool off his X account, taken down his banner, taken down his profile picture and changed it to one of him and his kid, which is cool. Having a picture of you and your kid, of course, nothing wrong with that. But, all of it together, he did it after the game last night, and nobody seems to know why he's removing all those references or what it's in relation to. So, like I said, it's just unfortunately going to just bring some more negative light on Liverpool. Blah said, these streams make my day. Love from Jersey. Thank you, my man. Love right back to you. I always look forward to A45 as well, so I can come on and chat with you guys. I was so relieved last night, though, going to bed. So relieved that we got the win. I couldn't even think about staring on the barrel of 5 losses in a row. The Emir said, if Slot drops him again, it shows Slot has integrity. Look, I wouldn't question anybody's integrity, but I would say that the 11 that take the pitch for us against Brentford should be 11 that are in the best of form. And at the moment, there are some players who wouldn't fall into that category. And unfortunately, and rarely we'd say this, but Mo is one of the ones that isn't in good form at the minute. Kirkes is another one. I don't think he should be playing against Brentford. I think we should stick with Andy Robertson because, when we're going through a sticky patch, I think it's best to lean on that experience. And Robbo stepped up last night, and I thought he did really, really well over in Germany. So Kirkes, I'll be leaving out as well. I think it's a real chance now for Conor Bradley to establish himself as the right back because Jeremy Frimpong is going to be out injured for a little bit. And also, Top Bradley, when he came on last night, was absolutely sensational. So, here's his chance to nail down a starting place. As much as we love Mo, I think the contract extension was signed for us to sell him to Saudi in the summer for big bucks. I can say to you, mate, hand on heart, that never entered my mind when he signed the contract extension. I thought, again, this is just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right, you're wrong, you're right, I'm wrong. I'm just saying my opinion was that he'd see out the 2 years and then that would be it. I didn't expect him to be sold with a year to go. I didn't expect anything. I thought genuinely, maybe naively, that contract was going to be, our goodbye to Mo then. So he plays his 2 years, he's 35, and whatever he wants to do after that, whether it's go to the MLS, whether it's go to Saudi, whether it's go anywhere, I thought we'd wish him well and we'd say, thank you for your incredible service to our football club. So for me, truly, I always expect them to see out the 2 years. And, maybe I'm being naive here because you're not the first person to say to me that you thought maybe he'd do 1 year and then we'd be sold. But it honestly wasn't something I was thinking of. Joseph said, first, the 4-4-2. Hopefully, we use long throws next. We should use everything, yeah. Look, it was great last night, Joseph, to see us showing some proficiency up the other end of the pitch from set pieces. Like, I really enjoyed seeing our two centre-backs scoring two very good, powerful, dominant headers. That was great to see. And long may that continue. Hopefully now we get teams worried when we have set pieces more, because we've got two big centre-backs who are very good aerially. And, Canade probably should have had a few more in his Liverpool career than he has, but it was great to see them both on the score sheet last night. So, Jordan, let me ask you a question. You said embarrassing people saying Salah has lost it. Fair enough. No problem. But let me ask you this, Jordan. Is he playing good enough to keep playing now? Because you're jumping to an extreme again and say people saying Salah's lost it. What about the 95% of people who just think he's not playing well at the minute? Do we not get a look into this conversation? No? Because people just jump to extremes all the time, one way or the other. Most people are in the middle, and most people feel he shouldn't be playing because he's not playing well. Nothing to do with him lost it. Nothing. There are people who think he's lost it, by the way. I'm not trying to say there aren't, but I don't think it's most people. I genuinely think most people are like me and just think he hasn't been playing well, and because he hasn't been playing well, he doesn't deserve to start. And there's every chance that he turns his form around, but you've got to earn that right. And he came on last night, could have had a hat-trick, didn't, and was selfish. I don't think that's going to make the manager sit up and think, well, I was wrong not to play him again. So like I keep saying, stop saying the very extreme end of things, to just try to belittle people. And let's have an honest conversation as adults that the dude's just not performing well enough. So Lean Cheng said, Craig, don't confuse the issue with common sense. I really don't know what you mean by that, mate. So what issue with common sense? I feel I'm speaking with common sense. I'm not writing him off. All I'm saying is he's not playing well. So I don't know what you're talking about, dude. If you want to write it out for me, I'll happily read it out. But what do you mean? Don't confuse it with common sense. I really have no idea what that means, man. I'm not trying to be a smart arse. I don't have a clue. Tony Storm said, did you get fed up of peeps distorting what you say? Or don't you get fed up? It drives me demented, mate, because I intentionally say what I say in a very specific way. If I'm in a bit of a rant or something, fair enough. But when I come on here for the stream tonight, I took time to make sure I knew how I was going to address the Salah situation in a very specific way, because I wanted to be fair. I wanted to try and be balanced, and I certainly didn't want to go and get to that point of saying he's finished. And I've tried to make a point to say many times that I'm not saying I want him out. I'm not saying he's finished. I'm just saying I think that this was the wrong behaviour and he's not playing well. So yeah, I do. But, it winds me because there's enough people trying to have pops at me for stuff. And I say enough stuff that I deserve a bit of criticism for occasionally. But, getting called out for something I didn't say at times is definitely frustrating, mate, yes. Right, so Jordan said, Craig, he's not playing well, I get that, and I agree he should not be starting, but nobody can lose it that quick. But I didn't say he's lost it, bro. That's the point I'm trying to make to you, Jordan. I, as in me, and I can only speak for me, I've never said he's lost it. I've never said sell him. In fact, I've said quite the opposite. I've said I do think this is temporary. I don't think he's lost it. But whenever you're in any way critical of Mo, people assume that you're getting to that point. Even if you've done what I do, which is to go out of my way to say that's not what I'm saying. So, yeah, I certainly don't think he's lost it, mate. Not at all. I just don't think he's playing well enough to be picked, and it seems like we're both on the same page on that one. So, yeah, anybody who's given him abuse, mate, deserves to be called out for it. And I don't think he's finished. I don't. But I do know he's not in great form, my man. And I think the best thing for the team is to play the players who are. Craig, sorry bro, it was sarcasm, basically saying you're spot on. Sorry mate, my bad. It's difficult sometimes to just interpret. You just see words and you don't really have a context to them. So all good. Thank you for clearing that up. Jan Panting said, Craig, didn't Salah play well and score for Egypt recently? Agree he needs to be dropped at the moment. So he scored for Egypt, but I truly haven't watched Egypt's games, mate, so I couldn't tell whether he played well or not. It would be unfair of me to say one way or the other. I think he played one of the games and then didn't play the second game because they'd already qualified, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I don't know how he played for Egypt form-wise because I don't watch the games. Town said, Craig, what Liverpool Football Club do to Salah for him to remove everything from a social media page? I think it's disrespectful. Disrespectful is an interesting word. I'm just trying to say whether I agree with the disrespectful part. I think I probably do. And the reason I'm going to say I agree with the disrespectful part is because it is disrespecting his teammates. It's disrespecting the coaches. It's disrespecting the fans who are on his side or who maybe just feel like he isn't playing well. Because it sends a big message and it invites criticism of the club. So remember what happened when we booed Trent. And when I say we, I mean some of the Liverpool fan base booed Trent. It was blown up out of all proportions. And even though many other football fans have booed many other players, when a Liverpool fan does it or when Liverpool fans do it, it gets highlighted. So you and I know now that the narrative is going to be Liverpool fans don't appreciate Salah. Liverpool fans are turning on Salah, and it's all going to be about Liverpool fans being negative. That's what will come from this. But we didn't cause him to do that. He did it. He chose to take down the social media stuff, not us. He didn't say, guys, I'm struggling. We're not in great form. Ease off, because I promise you people would. But silence and doing these things is not an action. It's intentional. Same way that he came out and did that interview when he wanted the contract extension, when he never does interviews. He comes out and says it because he wanted the attention and the media pressure that comes with it. So in this, I don't know what he's trying to get out of it. But I do know it's not helping anybody inside Liverpool. Let's talk a little bit about Isak. So Anfield Edition posted this, crediting Ad Jones, and said, I think the general feeling is that Isak has settled well. He's got on with the group of players. I think Van Dijk's been quite important in him trying to settle. He went on to say, he threw himself into the fitness program that Liverpool set up for him to try and get up to speed as quickly as possible. On Antoine Semenyo, couple of things on this one. So the I newspaper, MSI Douglas, via the Anfield Wrap, said Liverpool may push the button for Semenyo in January. So Liverpool may push the button for Semenyo in January. And that wasn't the only post about Semenyo today. Lewis Steele said Bournemouth would demand north of £75 million for in-form Antoine Semenyo. Liverpool and others are said to be keeping tabs on the Ghana international. And then there was another post today around Semenyo as well. 1 second. At least I think it was today. Where is it gone? Is it this one? No, it's not that one. Yeah, this one from Lewis Steele as well said Liverpool thought about signing Semenyo in the summer, but decided against buying a wide forward. They didn't want to block the progress of Rio Ngamoa. So now it seems with maybe Salah's form being a little bit down or whatever, that maybe they're looking at it. Maybe they're looking at Semenyo as the wide forward they need to bring in. So a couple of things about Antoine Semenyo. Like I've said, being honest, he wouldn't have been my first choice, but I can totally understand why Liverpool would be interested. Age profile wise, I think Semenyo is perfect. 25 years of age, which is a sweet spot for us when we look to bring in a player for the here and now. He's had that English football experience through a couple of clubs already. I think it was Bristol, if I remember right. He was at before he went to Bournemouth. Obviously played really well for Bournemouth as well now, and I think Liverpool have a big enough sample size where they'd go, right, we feel comfortable in making that move. What do we think though of £75 million, if that is the number? Would you see that's fair value? Tough to know for me, to be honest with you, because it's very difficult to just talk about value in football these days, full stops, with some of the transfer fees. So we asked, should Slot play the same system on Saturday? And 93% of you guys said yes, we should play that same system again. Kilo said, love you, Craig. You look fantastic in the black strip yesterday. Thank you, man. Appreciate that. It's a lovely shirt. It is a lovely shirt. And I think it's the first goalkeeper's jersey I've bought as an adult. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favourites in recent years. So, MB, you said, why aren't my messages getting posted? Well, I've literally just read it, and if you can see it, I can see it, bro. So, they are there. I just obviously haven't got around to one yet. Steve GG Ven 936 said, I want to see more of Rio. Same dude. I would have, especially last night, 5-1 up, I thought would have been a great time to give Rio Ngamoa a few minutes. Unfortunately, we haven't seen him, and this is one of the things about Arne Slot that does kind of wind me up a little bit. We have 6 players in the forward positions, but we really only have 4 because he won't start Chiesa, and Rio Ngamoa just isn't getting chances. So, last year, one of the things that really irritated me was when he looked to the bench, he'd see Chiesa and Elliott and he wouldn't want to play either of them. And then I'm asking myself, well, why have you got these guys on the bench if you're not going to play them? So it's kind of the same with Rio. We all want to see more of Rio. We all know how excited Rio is. But if Rio isn't going to be utilised this season, and that's understandable, he's young, then don't tell us he's taken up one of the 6 forward positions, because we end up screwing ourselves out of options. And then we end up having less rotational players to come in and start games. So instead of having 6 forwards, then you've got 4. That I don't like. So I totally understand not blocking the pathway for Rio, but if we are suffering because of that and the manager doesn't feel he's ready, I think it can be counterproductive in the short term. Jackson said, I don't get him not playing Rio, he's electric. So same, especially, with that huge moment at Newcastle. I mean, that was a pressure moment, and I think young Rio showed that he's ready for it. With the confidence not to take that touch as well and just finish it as well as he did. Yeah, I was expecting that to be the moment to kind of kickstart his real Liverpool career and push him on. But look, I've no problem with a manager taking time to bed in a young player. Absolutely none. My only issue with it is, if it's at the expense of a realistic option that we could have for the here and now. It's up to a manager to talk about when he's ready to bring in a young player. I've no issue with that. But saying he's going to be one of the 6 forwards and then not using him just feels like we're hamstringing ourselves. Safine said, if Salah leaves, we must get Elise. Also, would you do Gakpo for Alvarez? So I don't want to get rid of Cody Gakpo. I don't. I think Cody Gakpo always gives us plenty of goals, and I like having him in the team, and he signed a new deal. But I would like some more competition on the left-hand side, whether that's Rio getting more game time or whether that's us going out and bringing somebody in. It's funny you mention the stuff about Julian Alvarez, though, because Sport, a publication over in Spain, have said that Julian Alvarez has come to the decision that he must leave Atletico Madrid in 2026 to further his career. Atleti's decline over the past year has convinced him that he's outgrown the club. Barcelona are among the teams keen on signing him, though his price tag could exceed €150 million. I feel the time for us to sign him is gone. We brought in 2 forwards now, and look, I'm more than happy with the 2 we've brought in. I would have loved Julian Alvarez. I said this all summer. He would have been my very first choice for a forward. But to sit here and say I'm unhappy with Isak and Ekitike would be just wrong. I want Isak to hit the ground running and I want him to start scoring goals, but over the moon that we signed the 2 of them. Still truly just can't believe it's real that they're both Liverpool players. So I think the ship has sailed for us on him. And I did say to you guys last year, I've got a feeling he ends up at Barcelona. Now, how Barcelona get the money to pay for him, that's another conversation. But I do feel that that's where he's going to end up after he leaves Atleti. Simi said, Craig, Ekitike, Gakpo and Chiesa to start for me now with a high energy midfield. Same. Although it's hard to say that one, if you go to a 4-4-2. But in theory, the 2 up front, for me this weekend, I think there are 3 options for Arne to have 2 forwards if we're going for a 4-4-2. He either plays Chiesa and Ekitike or he plays Salah and Ekitike. I think they're the 2 options for Arne this weekend for the front 2. And I want to ask you guys in a poll, if you humour me, that we are playing the 4-4-2, what combo? Because it doesn't look like Isak's going to be fit. If he felt his groin, you would think the club will err on the side of caution there. So I'm going to ask you which combination, if you were Arne, that you would pick up top. So let's try the first one. So sorry, I'm just typing these answers out. So I've given three options because I think we have to give all three. Which two would you play on Saturday up top? Ekitike and Salah, Ekitike and Chiesa, or Salah and Chiesa? I think they're the realistic options. I think we've got three. If Isak's available, then of course he's in the mix. But right now, I would err on the side of caution and think he probably won't be available for the weekend. So I'm interested to see what combination, if we do stick with a 4-4-2, that you guys would like to see in the two. What do you think about Henderson, our former captain? It again, I kind of need a bit more context, so I'll try and answer it as broadly as I can for you, Artem. As when he was at Liverpool as captain of our football club, I thought he was an incredible captain, and I thought he led the club admirably. I thought he represented the club admirably, and I thought that he dealt with social issues admirably until it was time to take the money and go to Saudi. And that's when I lost some respect for him. But grand scheme of things, pantheon of time, looking back, a great leader, a great captain, and deserving of any praise he gets. You know, he led us to European Cup, a Premier League title, and I always said he was a very, very good captain for the football club, and I thought he was the right type of guy to be captain. So yeah, the only thing that left a bit of a sour taste in my mouth was not the fact that he moved to Saudi, but what that turned. It kind of went against some of the other stuff that he stood for, and I didn't like that. But like as a captain, I thought he was a very, very good captain. MB said, we all agree we need a proper defensive mid, so would anybody put by Chechic in if he can do it while on loan? He also played centre-back. I would, mate. I was hopeful that we'd see some of them in pre-season. By Chechic massively impressed me that season that he broke through. Now, I know he's been unfortunate with injuries and he didn't have a pre-season because of an injury this summer, and I wonder, will he really get the chance under Arna now? I hope he does, because like you've said, I think it'd be an interesting one to give him a run out. Naturally, a defensive thinking player anyway, whether it's a centre-back, as you've said, or whether playing in DM. Yeah, for me, if he can stay fit, I would absolutely consider him as an option. But yeah, that's just my opinion. Who'll win El Clasico on Sunday? I think Barca again. Yeah, I think Barca. I think Madrid aren't a cohesive unit as much as Barcelona are. And I would just, yeah, I would always side with Barca in this one recently. I think Hansi Flick's players know his system a bit better, and Alonso's still kind of figuring things out a bit there with Madrid, although results have been decent enough for them. Yeah, I'd go with Barca, and that and the fact that, of course, I'm a Barca fan in Spanish football, so. Oh, no Lua or Rafinha. I guess it depends how much Rashford steps up then. You know, he got a couple the other night, I think, if I'm not mistaken, Marcus Rashford. You know, big loss not having either of those two in, as you've said, but Pedri is one of the best footballers in the world, in my opinion, and you've got Lamine Yamal there, and Barca just have such a good, youthful squad coming, and players coming through from La Masia as well as others that they brought in. Yeah, I just think they're too good, basically, for Madrid. Sci-Fi said, I mean, I thought Hendo played for free in the Saudi League. That's why he couldn't come back to the Prem. Am I wrong here? So, if he didn't play for free, but if he didn't spend, I don't know how much time it is legally, if it's 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months, to make full use of that tax-free status, you have to be outside of the UK. I think it's 18 months or 2 years, I think, but, you know, forgive me, I don't know the exact answer. So that's why he went to Ajax and then eventually came back in. But either way, just the whole thought process of going, because if you think back to that summer, you know, Hendo had started doing the boxing training and stuff, and we were all speaking about what great shape Hendo looked in and that he looked like he was ready to come back and mean business. So, you know, we don't know what conversation he may or may not have had with Jurgen at the time, and maybe Jurgen said, look, mate, you're not going to be in my thinking week in, week out going forward, and maybe Henderson still felt he had, you know, enough in him to want to play week in and week out. So, You don't know how that all came about, but I just remember feeling very, very confused by it because, like, outside of the money, what's the upside of going to the Saudi Pro League for Henderson there? I know he gave it the whole want to grow the game nonsense, but that's all that is absolute nonsense. Ultimately, didn't work out. He went to Ajax, which I'm sure when he looks back in his career, he will think it's a pretty cool time, playing there for one of the big clubs in Europe. Ajax is a great football club. And now he's playing his trade with Brentford and he's back in the Prem. So you just wonder why he didn't just stay at Liverpool all the way through. Have I watched the recent Klopp interview and what do I think about it? I finished it today and I enjoyed it. Stephen conducts great interviews. That's why his podcast is so successful. And I thought all the topics that were discussed were exactly as I would have wanted them to be as a Liverpool fan. So yeah, interesting to hear some of the stuff around Manchester United as well. But, I love Jurgen. He's forever going to be somebody I just hold in the highest of esteem. But even him, I wasn't above criticising for certain things as well, which is why I keep coming back to the Salah stuff. Criticising is just that. It's being critical. It's not being abusive. And I think too often these days, people are too quick to call any criticism abuse. And it annoys me for two reasons. Firstly, it's wrong. There's a difference between the two. And secondly, by doing that, it undermines the people who are actually getting abuse. So, if somebody's being criticised for performance and people are like, oh, stop abusing them, that's bullshit. But if he's actually being abused, of course. But to throw a bandy around, like, it's the same with racism. The amount of people that have said to me things like, would you be saying this about Salah if he was Harry Kane? That is an actual comment somebody put in a video. And I thought, well, one, I'm Irish, so I don't give a shit about Harry Kane. So yes, of course I would. But two, you know what they really wanted to say. They wanted to say that your criticism of Salah isn't based off form. It isn't based off what he's doing on the pitch. It's based off some underlying racism. And that is so lazy and it's incredibly dangerous. And what it also does is it undermines people who are actually suffering at the hands of racism, which is a truly disgusting thing. And same with criticism and abuse. I think it's a similar thing. Critiquing is absolutely fine as long as it doesn't cross over into the personal insults and not talking about performances on a pitch. But all too often these days, people are just conflating the two, and just any form of critiquing is just viewed as abuse, and that's not fair because people should be able to share an honest opinion on a performance and not be ridiculed for it. Eileen Cheng said, I've been called racist for saying Mo is off form. Dude, I've been called racist by Salah FC fans for years. For years. From saying something as simple as, he should have scored that. Or, I don't like that he's playing the contract stuff out in public. Things like that, I've been called for years. And it's the very first time in my time making content that I've ever really seen this kind of non-football club supporting fan that is just like a Ronaldo fan, a Neymar fan, a Messi fan, a Salah fan. And Mane was another interesting one, because when Mane was leaving Liverpool, I remember reading so many people coming into the comments saying, you Liverpool fans don't appreciate Sadio Mane, you Liverpool fans didn't love Sadio Mane enough, and now he's going to Bayern Munich and they'll show Liverpool fans how to love Sadio Mane. And I just thought, that's just not fair. This is absolutely not. And also, how did that work out at Bayern? Did you get that love? This is what winds me up. I support Liverpool Football Club. And players will come and go, and managers will come and go. But that one thing constant in my life is going to be the football club. So for me, I want what is best for the football club, not any single individual. I want what is best for Liverpool FC, the club that has been there when I was a kid and will be there to my dying breath. That is what my interest is in, the club and everything that's best for that club. Players, heroes will come and go. I've lived through Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, Fernando Torres, Luis Suarez, Mohamed Salah, Steven Gerrard. I've been fortunate enough to live through all of these guys who have come and gone. But that one thing, that liver bird, is the one consistent thing. And that's the thing I think as a fan we look to protect. So it's a very modern thing now that fans are coming in as fans of players. And I have to say, I'm a bit of a hypocrite in this regard because I got drawn into the NFL via individuals. So I got drawn in because, let's say, I like Patrick Mahomes, I like Aaron Rodgers. So it was single players that got me into them. But I would still say that once I picked my team, that is my team, and no one individual would ever be bigger than that team. Um, so yeah, it's just a modern phenomenon I don't like. Daniel Glover, how are we, dude? Said, wait, is there a chance Semenyo might come to Liverpool? There certainly is, my friend. Certainly is. Couple of reports on that today. First one we'd seen said Bournemouth would demand north of £75 million for inform Antoine Semenyo. Liverpool and others are said to be keeping tabs on the Ghana international. And then there was a separate report on top of that that said Liverpool may push the button for Antoine Semenyo in January. And that was the newspaper, MSI Douglas, via the Anfield Wrap. So, yeah, there is a chance, dude. And it would be interesting and exciting at the same time, because then we really would have a decision to make about what happens for Mo, because is Antoine Semenyo then the long-term Salah successor? So, here's an interesting hypothetical question for you. When Mo signed his new 2-year deal, and I guess we could have the very same conversation about Virgil as well. When Mo signed that 2-year deal, at what point in your mind did you think Liverpool would bring in the eventual successor to Mo? So to kick us off, for me, I thought it would be at the end of the first year of his contract. So I thought Liverpool would then go out into the market, pick whomever it is, let's just say for argument's sake it's Nico Williams, and bring Nico Williams in with 1 year to go on Mo's deal. And then over the course of that season, we will gradually see a change where Mo plays less and less and Williams becomes more and more prominent, and then eventually the changeover is a bit more smooth, rather than let Mo play the 2 years, leave, and then Liverpool bring somebody in that summer, and then there's all the teething problems and getting to know each other. And the same with Virgil, by the way. We could have the same conversation here about Virgil. Paul Owen said, I've supported Liverpool since 77. Bad pain, great highs, will never stop supporting. Next summer, says you'll never walk alone, 7-0. There was another one here. Where was the other one? Sorry, I'm trying to get everyone's answers on the Salah replacement. I've not done that one. A year left to run, said Lean Cheng. I think Salah replacement comes in next year, said Keane. Next summer, said you'll never walk alone, 7-0. Craig, in your opinion, would you start Hugo over Isak? If we to play one, yes. Right now, I think Hugo Ekitike would deserve to start over Isak. I want both of them playing, by the way. I like the idea of us having both on last night. But if we just had to play one or the other, I think right now the fairest thing to do would be to play Hugo Ekitike, because he's playing really well and has settled really quickly. Nigel Lewis said, I would love Nico Williams as a replacement for Salah. So would I. But honestly, I'd be fine with Semenyo as well. He wouldn't be my first choice, but I'd be absolutely fine with Semenyo. And there's a few other players in world football that I probably wouldn't say no to either. But I just wonder, is it going to... we've already seen stuff today about Semenyo in January as an example. So are Liverpool maybe worrying internally about Salah's form? And is that why? Or are maybe Liverpool looking at it and thinking, well, maybe Rio and Gamoa won't be ready for the here and now, and maybe if we bring in a wide forward now, that would buy us a bit more time with Rio and give us an opportunity to then start building towards Salah's exit in the longer term. So it's interesting, because I still think you could make that argument that either way, bring in the wide forward. I also agree with everybody, by the way, who said that the most important position to get is a centre-back. I would say you'd nearly need 2 centre-backs. But definitely that's, if day one in the transfer window, centre-back should be top of the priority list. Dave Sharples, how are we, bro? Does anybody else worry about Brentford? I don't think they'll be as easy as Frankfurt. I do, Dave. You're damn right they won't be as easy, mate. Certainly a well-drilled team. Keith Andrews has done quite well since taking over there from Thomas Frank. We know from set pieces they're going to be difficult. We know they've got a very good goalkeeper as well. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a bigger test, which is why I said last night was great and all, but if we back it up on Saturday, that'll build more confidence because we need to start picking up league points again. And like you said, Brentford will be no mugs. I'm really excited. We've got 2 Saturday 8 p.m. kickoffs in a row, by the way. How cool is that? We've got Brentford this week and then Villa next weekend. That's class. 2 8 p.m. Saturday night games. Henry the Gamer said, why are people misunderstanding some of Liverpool fans about Salah's form? I think it's twofold, mate. Some just want to be protective of Mo and, just want to stand up for him. And that's cool. I think sometimes it's a bit over the top, but it's cool. And others just want to shit stir and just want to make out like things are worse than they are for nefarious reasons. So they're the 2 reasons for me why people do it. But I think, again, they lump in anybody who's critical into the same category as anybody who's abusive. And I think that's unfair to people who have a genuine concern about a player's form. You'll never walk alone, 7-0 said, Craig, if we sold Salah in the summer, how much do you think we'd get for him? I'm so glad you brought that up because I actually asked that question last night to a couple of my mates and none of us could answer it, dude. None of us. So if we sold Salah in the summer, so it'd be what, 33 heading for 34, 1 year to go on his deal. It probably depends where you sell him to. So, to Saudi, you're probably going to lump another 20 million onto what you'd get. It's such, how do you value a 34-year-old player with 1 year to go? It's, I wouldn't have a clue where to start, my man. If he was going to, I don't know. I couldn't even pull a number out my backside because I really just don't know. Someone said 170 million. Mate, you wouldn't even get the 70, let alone the 170. Remember, he's going to be 34 and he's going to have 1 year left on his deal. So the idea of getting 100 odd million quid from it just seems silly. Because whoever's buying him, you're not really going to get. There's no sell on. Like, you're not going to have a player that you can bring in and then make money from in a few years' time. It's basically just money you're going to write off for the length of time he signs for your club. So 50 to 60, maybe. But again, super hard to guess because it's kind of uncharted territory to some extent. Usually for players that age, you're not really getting much of a transfer fee. Itachi said, is Isak out for Brentford? It hasn't been confirmed, but I would be very surprised after feeling his hamstring if the manager does utilise him. Can I ask a favour, guys? If you can, please do drop a like for me on the stream. It takes a sec, but it really does help us push the content out there. A couple of things as well to let you know about tomorrow. Myself, Connor and Chris are going to record another episode of the Anfield Agenda podcast, so that'll be out tomorrow evening time. Actually, I want to just delete that because I don't need that anymore. Where are we? They were offering 100 plus for Bruno, so based on that same number, regardless of age. Isn't Bruno younger than Mo? I think Bruno's 31. Maybe I'm wrong. But look, obviously, I'd want as much money as Liverpool could get. So if 100 million was on the table, bro, 100 million if we were getting to that point. But I must reiterate this, I'm not at a point yet where I'd want to sell Mo, and I'm not at a point yet where I want to write Mo off. But I do think a bit of a breather would be no harm now because, he's just not himself. MB4308 said, I think we need 3 or 4 centre-backs. Kanade may go, VVD's replacement and a backup because in a year's time, VVD will start slowing down because of the age. At least we have Leone. So on the centre-back thing, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because like you said, we do have Giovanni Leone there, but we absolutely don't have him for this season because of that unfortunate injury. We, as you've rightly pointed out, don't know what's happening with Ibrahima Kanade. So at the moment, all we really know is at the end of this season, we have Virgil guaranteed to be here, Gomez, who is probably going to move on, and there's been more talks about Milan, and a Canade situation that is still up in the air. So in January, what I'd like to see us do is go out and get somebody, just one at a bare minimum. If we have our eyes on a free transfer for the end of the season, well, there's a couple of things we could do there. If Liverpool want Dayo Upamecano, which has been reported today, we could get him to sign a pre-contract and then know he'd be coming in the summer. And that's where we're at a bit of a disadvantage over Mark Gay, because Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, Barcelona, they can all have conversations with Mark Gay in January and get him to sign a pre-contract. Liverpool can't do that. Liverpool, of course, could, maybe try to speak to his agent and get an agreement for the end of the season, but they couldn't get it in black and white. They couldn't get him to sign that agreement because it's against the rules. This piece from Florian Plettenberg said Bayern Munich Director of Sport Max Erbel has taken a meeting with Gordon Stipic, the agent of Mark Gay. Bayern want to show that they're interested, but are aware Real Madrid and Liverpool are also in the race for a signature. Should Dayo Upamecano choose not to extend his contract, Gay is one of the preferred options alongside Nico Schlotterbeck. There was another one here, though. This piece from The Mirror said Liverpool are said to be considering Bayern Munich star Dayo Upamecano as an alternative to Mark Gay. Like Mark Gay, Upamecano's current contract with his club is due to expire on June the 30th, and talks over an extension have not made any progress. I don't want Upamecano. I've said this a few times. I think when we got Canade, we got the better centre-back from Leipzig. So to maybe lose Canade and bring it Upamecano, I don't feel that's a step forward. I feel like at best it's a sideways step. So I'd rather we put all our eggs into trying to keep Canade. But one interesting part is, so we've heard there that Real Madrid are interested in Mark Gay. So what happens if Real Madrid turn around to Canade then and go, yeah, sorry mate, we actually want this guy? What happens then? Because, Liverpool will offer him a contract right now. And if he doesn't go to Madrid, are there any clubs really in world football that are a step above Liverpool? Do PSG want him on a free? Maybe. That is his hometown city. But I still think the right thing for him to do, and I've always felt this, would be to extend at Liverpool. Because, things are settled from here. So, Dan, I'm going to read this out because I can't be responsible for other people, Daniel. So, how did it suddenly turn into let's get rid of Salah season? Yes, you're not saying that. Mob mentality in the group, though, has seemingly gone that way. I can't be responsible for other people's direction, Daniel. But the only reason we're having this conversation, sir, is because of Salah's actions by taking down Liverpool from his social media, which has had the desired effect, which is his name being spoken about by everybody far and wide. So, again, I find it unfair that everybody else gets criticised except the player who's caused this situation. You or I didn't take down his social media, bro. All we said was that he was selfish last night by not squaring the ball to Wirtz, which we were right about, and that he hasn't been great, which we're right about. So, mob mentality or not, maybe, and just maybe, did you ever feel that people are right on this one? That he isn't playing well enough? I'm trying to be fair with you, bro, because you weren't abusive at all in what you said, so I'm trying to address it sincerely. I can only say what I can say, my man, which is multiple times I'm not writing Salah off and I don't want him to be gone. But I do not think he's playing well enough, and I do think his actions were childish and petty. And, what other people take from that or believe from that, I can't control. But I will always give you my honest opinion. And my honest opinion is that he hasn't been good enough at the minute. Craig, can we get a pre-contract agreement with a player currently playing outside of the Prem? Yes, sir, we can. So when a player gets into the final 6 months of his contract, any club outside of the same jurisdiction can talk to that player. I don't even think they have to alert the club that the player is currently at, although don't quote me on that one. So for us, Dayo Upamecano, as an example, Liverpool could have that conversation with him in January, but we couldn't with Mark Gay, which is, where we're at a bit of a disadvantage there. Robert Reed, how are we, Robert? Said, thinks Semenyo is a great footballer and I normally would love him, but here, but not now is not the time. Yeah, maybe it isn't. For me, the priority, is certainly defender. When I see the January transfer window open, mate, my mind is going to be set on a defender. And I wouldn't have really been thinking about an attacker one way or the other. We know that Mo's not going to be here in January because he'll be at the AFCON, and that's something that we've always known. For me, the real question is, when are we going to start giving Rio Engamoa more opportunities? That for me is the interesting point of all of this. But if the answer to that is that the manager feels he isn't there yet and might not be there this season, then I think that conversation around a forward might be more worthwhile. Craig, if you ever say which two new centre backs would you go for? Well, Mark Gay I would absolutely take. And after Mark Gay, probably Schlotterbeck, but there's I like Nathan Collins from Brentford. I've said this before as well. I think he's underrated by a lot of people. It kind of depends on the profile we need. Like, do we need somebody for the here and now? Do we need a leader? Mark Gay would certainly be at the very tippity top of my list. After that, Schlotterbeck makes sense. Upamecano just feels like an opportunistic thing, but I don't feel the right one. Murillo would be a really good shout, although I would imagine astronomically expensive from Forest. Yeah, they're probably roughly the names. I'm sure that there are others. Like there was a couple of defenders we've spoken about that I don't really know. Like Lukeba is another name that's been mentioned, and for me to sit here and tell you I followed him, I'd be an absolute liar. Joseph said Pacho, unlikely but a great centre back. Oh, very unlikely, but absolutely spot on, mate. I would take him in a heartbeat based off what I've seen of him at PSG anyway. Robert says, you're right about Engamoa, Craig. Yesterday was a great time for minutes, but Slot clearly didn't want to go down that road for some reason. It's confusing, isn't it? Because he did do it at Newcastle and it worked, and Rio came on and, won the game for us. And since then, there's been a couple of little opportunities, but yeah, like you, Robert, last night just felt like the right time. 5-1 up. Give him a few minutes and a bit of Champions League experience. Damon said, Craig, ever wonder what the squad will look like when we don't have VVD in the squad? I wouldn't say I've wondered about it, in that I've worried about it, because how do you go and replace him? Yeah, it's going to be so. Same with Mo. You say the very same thing. How do you go about replacing two lads who are unicorns in the sense that they are so damn good and so dependable over their time here? It's going to be really, really difficult. One player that can come in and replace him, which is maybe why you've seen us spend big on Wirtz, on Isak, on Ekitike, to just try and spread that burden around. Now, defensively, is sort of a different conversation. You just want to have that good centre-back pairing, so you need two complementary centre-backs. But yeah, I don't know who that leader is going to be, man, because Virgil van Dijk is, and has been, one of, if not the best centre-back in world football. Ambient Noise said, does anyone think Maka and Salah would be both sold? Camavinga to us, Maka to Madrid, who will suit Spain, Semenyo to replace Salah. So on the McAllister thing, I have started to have a little bit of consideration to what may happen there, actually. And the reason I've started to think about it is looking at, let's say, the way we played last night. So let's just say, for instance, Arna wants to keep playing 4-4-2 for the future. Well, then we're going to have two midfielders. Whether that's one holding, 1-8, whether that's 2 6s, whether that's 2 8s, it doesn't matter. If we're going to have two midfielders, then you have Gravenberch, McAllister, Szoboszlai, Jones, Endo, Wirtz. Am I forgetting anybody? And then if you bring in another one, another defensive midfielder, that's 7 for 2 positions. And I don't know where everyone's getting those minutes from. So could I see a world where McAllister goes and somebody else is brought in? Ironically, yes. And I wouldn't have said this last year. And this is not to do with his form, it's a sheer numbers thing. We do need that extra defensive minded midfielder. And if Arne looked around and thought, right, well, if I brought in Camavinga and I sold McAllister, I'd still have Soboslai, I'd still have Jones, I'd still have Wirtz, I then would have Camavinga in on top. Young Stefan Bajcetic there, Leone there as well. Yeah, for the first time in, well, ever since he's joined Liverpool, I can actually see a world where potentially McAllister moves on. When that might be, I don't know, but yesterday was really the first time I started to think about that properly because of the slight change in the system. Lul Abdi said, "Hi Craig, I don't know what's happening with Mo, but for some reason I have a bad feeling he's struggling mentally and should probably take a break from football, or I might be overreacting." So let me say this, my friend. If he's struggling mentally, everything should be done to help him. No stone should be left unturned. Whether that's giving him an extended break or a holiday, whether that's providing him with extra resources mentally and through therapists, 100% I'm with you. And I've tried, I can say the same thing over and over again, and some people hear it, some people won't, but you cannot just forget about what happened with Diogo Jota. And as critical as I am being of a performance, if Mo was to go to Arne in the morning and say, "Look, Gaffer, I'm struggling with a lot of stuff. I'm struggling with my form. I'm struggling with the loss of Diogo, and I'm just not feeling myself." Of course, he should receive every bit of support that we can give him. He's human. Um, yeah, and I've said there will be players they're going to be struggling like that, and of course they should get every bit of support that's needed. If you're struggling, lean on the people around you. 100%, man. You're absolutely right. Like, we don't know what's going on in his head, but if he is struggling, I would have no issues if the club said, "Look, take a month off before you go to the AFCON, spend some time with your family, do something therapeutic, relax, work through what you need to work." Of course, 100%, mate. These are human beings as well. Will you be going to another game in Anfield this season? Truth is, I don't know. I haven't really thought about it too much yet. I really did enjoy the lounge experience, though. It was cool. I enjoyed meeting everybody in and around it. I enjoyed meeting fans of the club outside. I enjoyed talking with the staff inside. Like I said the other day, I couldn't speak highly enough of all of the staff that were in the Sevens Lounge. They looked after everybody in there impeccably with great care and a great sense of humour. And I couldn't, it was a thoroughly enjoyable experience apart from the result. Right, where are we at? Joseph said, "I think Dom and Jones suit the 4-4-2 best. They have the insane stamina to be box-to-box beasts." Timothy said, "We sold Prime Diaz for good money. Mac isn't far off that age. When we look to bring in a younger player, maybe Wharton, I think Grav is a natural 8. It's crazy because last year I would have thought even the potential to sell McAllister would have been nuts. But this year, if we are to play with two central midfielders and we were to bring in another DM as an option, for the first time ever, I would think it's not the most ridiculous thing in the world, although I still really rate Alexis McAllister. But like we've said, if you've got Wirtz, if you've got Soboslai, if you've got Jones and McAllister all competing for maybe one spot, if Gravenberch is in there, two at best, I don't think he'd be able to keep everybody happy. Am I going to the Liverpool Madrid game in 2 weeks? I'm not, mate. No, I'm not. That game was the first one I've been over to in about 3 years, and I hope to get to another one soon. But I've nothing planned yet, and certainly won't be in the Madrid game because I want to make sure I'm here for the channel now. I took that time away, and I hated missing the game on the watch along, but I wanted to get over to one. If you do, maybe you could meet up before and have a chat because I live just off Anfield Road. Of course. If I hell over to another game again, the likelihood is we'll organise a meet up somewhere as well. I'm not doing any more stage shows, but if I do go over to Liverpool for another game, yeah, I'd like to organise a meet up of Anfield Agenda community. We can have a chat and a couple of drinks or whatever, and maybe take in another game of football or something. But definitely be my pleasure. I love meeting up with you guys wherever we are. It's been one of my favourite aspects of doing these shows has been, I get to meet people afterwards, put a face to a name, say thank you for watching, and yeah, be my pleasure. How do you think Trent and the Liverpool fans will react in the Madrid clash? Um, don't know. Certainly don't expect them to be booed. I'm a big believer in ignoring somebody. So, am I annoyed that Trent left? Yes. Do I want to boo him? No. I would just rather pretend he's just another player and don't put too much focus on him. Don't put too much anything on him. Just focus on our team and on what we can do. So what happens with others may depend how the game is going. I have no idea. Do you think Salah's ego can take being benched for Ekatika and Isak? I don't think Salah has a particularly bigger ego than anybody else. These guys don't get to where they are without that incredible self-belief. You don't get to that level of world football without really believing and backing yourself. So I've no problem with anybody being unhappy with being on a bench or being unhappy with being substituted. You want players to want to play. And, what I'd like to hear from Mo or anybody who'd been left out is, I'm not happy about it, but it's up to me to convince the manager that I deserve to be playing, and I'm going to work hard on the training ground, and I'm going to make sure that I'm back in that team, and I'm going to get back to my best. Not taking down your stuff off social media and going down the tunnel look like you were annoyed. I don't think that serves anybody well. Understand them being frustrated. We see it all the time. If a player misses a chance or doesn't think that they've played particularly well, that's okay. They probably hold themselves to a higher standard than we do. So I've no issue with any of that. I just felt it was a bit childish to do what he done. Jason Curry, how are we, Jason? So, Craig, do you think Salah is upset with the manager? And the next 2 weeks, some of his favourites players coming back: Trent, Harvey, Kelleher, Endo. So again, it would be impossible for me to say because I have no idea what conversations have or have not been had between Arna and Mo. When I've seen him speak publicly about Mo, it's only ever been glowing, and because he deserves to be spoken about that way. But whether there's been conversations behind the scenes that maybe rubbed one or the other up the wrong way, I'd be just guessing at. So I really don't know. Ambient Noises said, I was always personally worried about Salah getting to a time of him not being the star. Always thought it could be an issue. Hopefully that's not the case and he humbles down and plays the team. Look, we all want him to get back to himself. Nobody wants this scenario because it nobody wins. Him not playing well and us not being happy as fans and him not getting the opportunity to play games, nobody's winning in that scenario. We all want Mo to be back to his best, but yeah. Hoarder said Salah's frustrated at not starting, not scoring, stop the drama. So, no. How about that? How about stop acting like a child? Why should it always be incumbent upon everybody else to run around and pat footballers on the head and blow smoke up their arse? And again, Hoarder, I didn't take down Salah's stuff off social media. You didn't do it. He did it. And he knew what he was doing. So why should the rest of us have to just pretend like we're not annoyed or pretend like this isn't wrong just to stroke somebody's ego? Sorry, no. He shouldn't have done it. End of conversation. And if he has something to say it. But he's not. And all he's doing is inviting scrutiny on the club. And that's not team player stuff. So, no. We won't stop the drama because we didn't start the drama, mate. Let's not forget that. This is from him, not me. I didn't take down his social media. I didn't go down the tunnel with a face like a smacked arse. I didn't do any of that. You know, if he didn't take down his social media, we wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation. But why did he do that? You know, you didn't miss the chance for him, Hoarder. I didn't miss the chance for him. We did not square the ball to Wirtz. You know, these are things that you've got to just take on the chin, mate. Not you personally, but, you know, you've got to take these very fair critiques on the chin and own it and use it as fuel to be better. Corbyn said no one is writing Salah off. He'll use it as fuel. I hope he does, because that's what we all want. Harvey, sorry I only seen this now, Harvey. My apologies, mate. I should have seen it earlier. What happened with the Salah stuff? Joined late. So it kind of all came around late last night. So initially, Lewis Steele had said that Mohamed Salah went down the tunnel looking angry and didn't clap away fans. I think that was retracted to say that he did indeed clap the away fans, but he did go down the tunnel looking a little bit annoyed. And that's okay. Like we've all said, no problem with anybody being annoyed if they don't feel like they've played well or they missed when they should have. But then afterwards, there was a post from LFC Transfer Room, and they said Mo's changed his profile picture and removed his header from X. Not sure what's going on, but many claim it's due to the criticism from many fans on his recent performances. Need him back to his best soon. He's key to our title efforts. So that's all that we know, is that Liverpool have been removed from his socials and his profile pic and his header. No context given to us fans. Again, that was hypothetical there, saying many feel it's because, but if that's it, then just come out and say, I'm not happy with certain fans speaking about me the way that they did, and address it that way, because everybody would come to his support. But doing this, I feel like it feels petulant. And I keep coming back to that word, man. It feels petulant and not befitting of him. So, you know, I feel a little bit, as a fan, frustrated, confused. But, you know, when you don't say how you're feeling, it just invites people to hypothesize on what it's about. Yeah, Dave, I laughed on that as well, mate. Had to laugh last night when you said Slot said Isak felt his groin. It conjured up some strange images. As soon as I said it, Dave, I said to myself, "You're gonna have to correct that one, dude, because it sounds like you're saying that Isak felt Arna's groin, and you know that's all a little bit Harvey Weinstein." So yeah, as soon as I said it, man, I think I mentioned it at the time. Yeah, could have phrased that a bit better, Dave. Definitely. Anyone find it very interesting how much more Gakpo is looking for the pass instead of shooting all the time? Slaw has had serious words with all of them. Salah will play Saturday with an assist. Yeah, 3 in a row for Gakpo, by the way, with regards to goals. And he always does chip in with his fair amount every season. Look, decision-making wise last night, I thought more often than not the lads did make the right decisions with where they were playing the ball and which sides they went to in attack. And I can also understand Salah trying to take that chance at the end and not square with the Wirtz. But unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier on, in football, if a forward takes on a chance and scores it, cool. Great, well done, right decision. But if they don't, and there's somebody who could have had a tap in, then whether it's Salah, whether it's Isak, whether it's Ekitike, that criticism is going to come, because history is written by the winners. If you take on an opportunity yourself, you've got to finish it. If there's an option to square it, that's probably a better option, and in that case it was, and you don't do it and you don't score, then you're going to get that criticism. So, and if you add into the context as well of who he was squaring it to, and the fact that it would have taken pressure off a teammate who has come in for criticism in Florian Wirtz from some, because he hasn't done enough numbers, even though his underlying numbers and performances have showed that he's been unlucky. I think you add all that into the mix, and it just felt like it was an easy win to square the ball, get Wirtz off the mark, and Salah gets an assist. Wirtz gets his goal, and everybody feels a bit happier. Right, let's have a look at what you guys voted for. So we asked, which two would you play on Saturday up top? Would you go Ekitike and Salah, Ekitike and Chiesa, or Salah and Chiesa? And with just over 1,200 votes, 76% of you guys said that you would go with Ekitike and Chiesa on Saturday. I would as well, but I would guess that it will be Ekitike and Salah if he goes with it too. But because he hasn't shown any appetite to start Federico Chiesa, so I'd be very surprised if he starts doing it now. So for me, I would think it would be Ekitike and Salah, but I would go with Ekitike and Chiesa. And I don't think we've given him enough flowers, by the way. Hugo Ekitike, he's been brilliant since he's come to the club. We've obviously had a lot of attention on Florian Wirtz, a lot of attention on Alexander Isak, but you have to say Hugo Ekitike has come and he's meant business. Tanya, I'd seen that you gifted a membership, by the way, a moment ago. I forgot to say thank you. Thank you for that, Tanya. And Hoarder as well, thank you for gifting 5 memberships, mate. Very kind of you indeed. And I'm sure both of those membership gifts will be much appreciated. Yeah. Ekitike, yes, that's where I was going. Yeah, I think he's been absolutely top notch since he's come in, and you could physically feel the whole crowd lift when he came on against United. That things looked a little bit more energetic then. So he's come under the radar and I think done really, really well. LFC N9G said, if Slot constantly playing Salah, even though he's in bad form, might give off bad message to the players about starting spots. So I agree with that about any player. If you're playing, and it doesn't have to be Mo, if you're playing any player who's out of form and you're doing it 6, 7, 8 games, and there are players who are coming in, getting limited opportunities and making the most of them, and you're not rewarding them with the shirt, I also think it sends a bad message. But again, that wouldn't be unique to Salah. You could put anybody into that conversation. Viberson said Ekitike deserves to be the first name on the team sheet. Wouldn't be, I would say second. I think Szoboszlai should be the first name, but yeah, I'm right there with you. He certainly should be starting. Do you think Slot will play his strongest team versus Palace next week? I always find it a game of poker when you've got an all Premier League Cup game. It's almost a bit of brinksmanship between the two managers about how strong do either one go. Do they go, balls out and both go full strength? Do you mix it up a little bit? Because we're at home, I expect it to be a relatively weak side. So I would be surprised if we see Virgil. I'd be surprised if we see Salah. Usually in the League Cup, these guys would get a well-deserved rest. And in this instance, I do mean rest. But the fact it's Palace and the fact that their form has been a little bit choppy, maybe goes a bit stronger than we would have initially done. Surely, though, we see the likes of Rio get that game. Maybe even Trainioni get some minutes. They're the type of players that are Gomez to start the game. I would expect those to get minutes anyway. Craig, think Isak and Hugo stay long term? Might end up like Alvarez Haaland. Not sure. I do love the battle though. I love both of them wanting to prove themselves, and may the best man win, or may both of them win. Kyle Van Arde said, am I seeing this alone, or does Ekitike remind anyone of Bobby Firmino? Oh no, you're not on your own there, dude. Somebody said it to me, and then I couldn't unsee it once they'd said it to me. He does certainly have a touch of the Bobby Firmino's about him, both in the tenacity, the flicks, and the way that he looks to drop deep to pick up the ball. So, no, I don't think you're on your own. I can see that. God, if he's half the player that Bobby was, then we're in for some fun. James Dillon, thank you, man. That's so kind. Love you so much, brother, mate. That's beautiful. Thank you. Appreciate you. Wirtz has set up Salah so many times this season. It's just that Salah hasn't scored any of them. Yeah, he's been unlucky. You're right. Not just in setting up Salah, but in setting up players. It was great for him to get those 2 assists last night, Florian Wirtz. But when Arda said he was unlucky, most of the time I think a manager's talking out their backside. But yeah, genuinely agree. I do think he has been unlucky. Ambient Noises said, "You're a nice fella, Craig." I try to be, and look, I have my moments, dude. I can definitely be cranky at times, but um, I try to treat people as they treat me and my community. And if people come in to be an asshole, I will snap back at them and get rid of them. But if people come in with a genuine question, if we disagree, cool, but let's talk it through. And look, I'm so grateful to all of you for giving me this opportunity, this platform, and this, chance to do what I love. So, it's a team effort here. I feel that you guys are every bit as important as anything else that I do, and it's certainly something that means a lot to me that I have your support. Is Jaden Dan's injured? Unfortunately, Nasir, yes. And for a while as well, by the looks of it, he just can't catch a break, Nasir, the poor young lad. Just one unfortunate injury after another. So yeah, unfortunately, mate, he's out for a little bit. Tony Janu or Tony Joan. No, thank you. It's so kind of you. Honestly, lads, you don't know what your support means to me. Like day in, day out, week in, week out. It. Yeah, it means a lot. It really, really does mean a lot. Aaron said, "Oh, sorry, Aaron. There we go. I think Salah is struggling with the fact he's no longer the primary goal scoring option. He will only be productive if he becomes more of a playmaker." So I think that's right. But I think it's also right that the club have done what they've done, because I said this a while ago. I don't think you can go out there, Aaron, and find one player to replace Mohamed Salah, because that player probably doesn't exist. But you have to try and spread the burden around. And I mentioned a couple of days ago something that Troy Deeney said on Match of the Day, which was, are there too many, I don't want to use the word egos, but are there too many leading roles? Are there too many, I was the guy at my teams in there now? So you've got Salah, who was the guy at Liverpool, is the guy at Liverpool. You've got Isak, who was the guy at Newcastle. Ekitike, who, was the guy at Frankfurt. Wirtz, who was the guy at Leverkusen. And then you've got all these guys coming in together. And you hope, in theory, that everything is shared around and, everything's tickety-boo. But realistically, yeah, maybe there is still a bit of that, alpha male, I want to be the guy. And maybe that does cause some issues. So I can understand it from both sides, but I think it is important that the club does start to look to life after Mo and does start to look to where those future goals will come from. Do you agree that Jones and Gakpo is receiving too much hate? They seem like better players. So, Coleman, I was one of the biggest critics of Curtis Jones up to probably when Arna joined. And I felt up until that point any criticism Jones got was deserved. But what I don't understand is how people can look at Curtis Jones that we've seen under Arna and not say that he's improved massively. Somebody actually called me a hypocrite yesterday because I used to be critical of Jones and now I'm praising him. Like, they actually called me a hypocrite for that. And my argument back was, well, no, my opinion has evolved. And if I wasn't giving him the credit for the improved performances, I'd have an agenda. But I think Curtis Jones has come on a lot. He even said it when Arna first came in, that the style kind of suits him a little bit more. And I feel like he looks like he's brimming with confidence and is probably at the best point in his career so far. So on that one, 100%. But there are always scapegoats. And there always will be. Soboslai was a scapegoat last year. And there always is one or two. Lallana, back in the day, was often a scapegoat. Henderson would have been a scapegoat for some. And the people who are criticising them have made their mind up a long time ago and aren't willing to change it. Cody Gakpo, whatever way you look at it, and I've been somewhat critical of Cody at times this season. He always chips in, always does his fair amount of goals and assists, and is a very good person to have at the club. So, how can anybody say that a guy that has scored 3 games in a row isn't deserving of playing time. And that's what Cody has done. So to me, anybody who's saying those two players aren't good enough had made their mind up on those guys a long time ago and are just unwilling to change it. Right, ladies and gents, I'm going to say good night to you because the preview for the Brentford game is coming out now in 4 minutes. So if you do get a chance, please do let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of the predicted 11, of course, as well. Tomorrow, Friday, I'll be back, same time, same place. We'll have a news video coming out tomorrow afternoon at about 4:30. I'll be here at 8:45 for the late night agenda. And then, of course, don't forget, we've a Saturday night kickoff this week against Brentford, which means we'll be live from 6:45 p.m. Again, fingers crossed we can keep this new start of a winning streak together and get the points against Brentford, because we need to pick up those wins in the Prem. Thank you all again tonight. We don't always have to agree on everything, but more often than not, you guys and I can figure this out, even if we have differences on it, and I always appreciate your respect on that as well. Have a good one. Love to all of your families. Hope you're all